elected as the new city's mayor. The Democratic Alliance says it will not be forced to vote in a certain direction after ActionSA, the IFP and the ACDP urged the DA to consider its stance on working with the Patriotic Alliance in the election for a new mayor. Well, let's unpack these events and dynamics with what we can expect with political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi. Prof, good to have you, as always, with us on our program today. It does seem we're heading into another election for the City of Johannesburg's executive mayor. What are you expecting out of this particular round of votes when we look at the dynamics and how they've played out so far?
Hi, good morning, Ntokoza, and good morning to the viewers who have joined us this morning. For me, it is a continuation of a vicious cycle of disrespect for the citizens of Gauteng, for disrespect for the citizens of South Africa, because we've never had a situation where it's almost now became a norm where it seems as if every second week there's a vote of no confidence. And the question that we need to start asking our leaders, irrespective of which political party they are leading, is to say ask them whether do they really have the interest of South Africans at heart, because what we have seen, it's really unacceptable. It does not enhance service delivery. And I can't see that this round will now consolidate, governance and lead to service delivery in Gauteng.
Yeah. In attempting to answer that very question, Prof, of whether or not what's been playing out at the City Council is in the interests of Johannesburg residents, you know, the brand of politics of each of these political organizations has been closely kind of observed. And, of course, the Democratic Alliance coming out strongly to say that they are not willing to work with the Patriotic Alliance. They've, of course, issued their reasons for that. But the ActionSA coming forward, essentially requesting that they reconsider this position. What sort of brand of politics are we looking at here when we're talking about the DA, a party that's been accused of having a very bullish stance when it comes to many of these negotiations?
Yeah, well, it's the same party which wants to go to next year's elections with the so-called moonshot pact. And they also need to be wary of what they do at local government, because once you step on the toes of all these opposition parties, I think some of them will be, quite wary to try and join the Democratic Alliance or any other opposition parties. We've also seen Bantu Olomisa coming into the frame, also calling for that. So it's a bit confusing. And I'm now referring to 2024. But the fact of the matter is what is currently happening, it seems as if also the Democratic Alliance wants to be seen to be leading the oppositions. And sometimes it doesn't help if you want to play a big brother position whenever there are situations that prevails politically wise. They need to also respect other opposition parties and also try to support whenever there are tangible, resolutions on the table. And it seems as if that is not always the case. And also some of the serious allegations also where we know, I mean, it's quite public knowledge that wherever the government, the DA governs, it seems as if they are doing quite well. But there have also been serious allegations of maladministration or how they handle nepotism and stuff like that, how they handle local government issues. So there's also a big cloud hanging around, a huge cloud hanging around the Democratic Alliance. And I think this contributes to the instability that we find ourselves in, that we found in some of these metropolitan municipalities.
It's also been very interesting, Prof, to watch ActionSA, Action South Africa, and its posturing throughout this very confusing dynamic that's been playing out in the city of Johannesburg. They, of course, being at the forefront of leading the conversation around the Democratic Alliance, venturing to work together with other smaller organizations like the PA, almost playing the role of the peacemaker. What do you make of that? Because it does appear that the party is wanting to come forward as an organization that is solely playing at the interests of Johannesburg residents. And also, I might add that this is a party that made major grounds at the previous local government elections. Has that been stalled a little by the way in which these coalition politics have been playing out?
Not really. You need to go a little bit back to go and look at where ActionSA comes from. So in politics, we've seen with the EFF a couple of months, a few years after its formation, the attitude of Julius Malema towards the African National Congress. And we all know what happened there. It's the same with your Herman Mashabas and all the other senior leaders who've left the Democratic Alliance. So there's also some anger issues. So one should never, also isolate those factors. So there will always be, we are going to take them on outside of the Democratic Alliance. So those issues also comes to the fore. And it's very unfortunate. Yes, it's very commendable if you look at the electoral support that ActionSA got during the last round of the elections. But fact of the matter is that also does not give them the right not to listen to other parties, but yet they do have a key role to play. In fact, all these opposition parties do have a key role to play, but it seems as if, and that is the nature of our politics, everybody wants to be the leader. Every party wants to be the leading party. They want to be seen to be dominating. And at the end of the day, they are disadvantaging themselves and they are working in favor of the African National Congress. And that's why we are where we are with regard to what is happening in Gauteng.
Talking about political parties, each and every single one of them wanting to emerge as the leader, a very interesting organization to watch has, of course, been the Patriotic Alliance and the roles, the differing roles that it's played over the course of the last couple of months. Gayton McKenzie, in the weeks leading up to Thapelo Ahmad's own resignation, coming forward and availing himself to stand as a potential candidate for the position of Johannesburg mayor. What would you describe the Patriotic Alliance's politics as? Other opposition parties venturing to say that it's been almost self-serving in a lot of its political ploys and plays that we've seen in the city of Johannesburg?
Well, there are very few political leaders that I follow, but for some odd reason, I got also hooked up with some of the work that Gayton McKenzie have been doing in the Karoo, Beaufort West, and that part of our country. Very commendable. But we've also seen some negative comments that it seems as if he takes decisions on its own. But fact of the matter is, within a short space of time, he managed to get a lot of things right. But there's a huge difference between a municipality in Northern Cape and Gauteng metropolitan, and that's where the difference comes on. But once you've got parties with what I would say, such small electoral support coming forward, that also tells you that they are aware that the current environment, it's so conducive that, in fact, even a party just got 0.5 support can emerge leading a coalition government. It all depends on what difference that proportion of votes will do. And it's the same what is playing out here with Gayton McKenzie PA. If you look at what they are trying to advance here, it's a situation that look at our track record in the Northern Cape, and it seems as if you cannot agree. You've been given an opportunity, give us an opportunity and see what we will be able to do. And they can only do that if they believe that they can do better than your so-called main political parties like the ANC, EFF, and Democratic Alliance. It has been unheard of where a party which has not get a large number of votes will come forward to try and lead Gauteng. So this, for me, just tells us it's indicative of the current political environment in South Africa.
Yeah, a very unsteady and a very uncertain political environment. I think it's on that note, it is important to ponder on, how this all started out. Al Jama throwing its weight in with the ANC and the EFF, all part of the ANC and EFF's efforts really to claw back power and control of metros that they had lost to the DA-led multi-party coalition. And I wonder now, with the current position that the City of Johannesburg finds itself in, heading into another election for a Johannesburg mayor, knowing that shortly after that, its own council speaker is facing a motion of no confidence, a figure that was quite central in securing a lot of those leadership positions that we saw quite early on this year. How successful has this venture been, this coalition between the ANC and EFF to claw back a lot of the lost ground in the local government space, particularly in Gauteng?
No, well, coalitions between the ANC and the EFF can work, but also, I mean, the EFF should also be wary. To what extent are they antagonizing their own members? And we've seen numerous times. It's not about what we in the public knows as a coalition agreement between the parties. It's all about who is going to serve on which positions. And once that is not implemented, we will be back to square one within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And that is the problem with this coalition government. What happens behind the scenes, it's not a problem. But when the EFF, which I believe is a smaller party in terms of their support, their electoral support, if they don't get what the ANC had promised, we will be having this conversation again. And this has been the case, a vicious cycle of leaders who seems to have completely, disregarded the interest of citizens. And my prediction is I can't see that this time around it will work for the residents, because this has been the political game that our leader seems to, play with the hearts and minds and souls of South Africans.
Indeed. Well, Prof, thank you so much. We are going to have to leave that conversation there. That was political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi talking to us there about that impending vote for Johannesburg's new mayor.